Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman and Ashley Mailloux taking a look at race number 8 at the great race place, Santa Anita on California Crown Saturday for a potential prep for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Now we're going down the hill, 6.5, a lot different. 5/8 at Del Mar, but it's the grade 2 Eddie D, $750,000. Let's take a look at this field. This is a very competitive group. From the east on the far outside is the 11. Big Invasion, who endured a little bit of a losing streak last year. He finished second in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. I thought he ran very well. Hopes were high for him going into 2024. And it took him, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts to get to the winner's circle. It appears he's back in form.
It does. So questions, though. 6.5. We talked about the distance in general. Now you're going on the downhill at Santa Anita. It's a different ball game, and just not sure what to make out of him. Obviously, he did what he needed to do in the Harvey Pack, going 5.5. And prior to that, they probably wanted 6.5 at the Belmont and Aqueduct, that race. But with that said, he's a little inconsistent. And in some of his races, I'm not sure he wants to necessarily go this far. So for me, when I see fields of 11, Dan, I'll give it away. I try to go against the favorite or the likely favorite.
And he's inexperienced over this quirky downhill turf configuration. We'll see how he handles that. Let's throw up our Timeform US pace projector. The race is bookended by closers. The one Johnny Padres likes to come from out of it. So does the 11 Big Invasion. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this pace plays out. Yes, Noble Reflection is fast. I think he can get to the front. Fast Buck broke a beat slow from the rail last time out and had to settle for the pocket. If he breaks, I think he makes the lead.
Yeah, don't remind me of that. Also liked him as a price there in that race, and he just wasn't able to do it. But he's only making his third start since September of last year. They're going to take blinkers off of him and go down the page. He's been pretty much a blinkers-only sort of type. So we'll see what he can do. I think the pace, it's a sprint. It's at Santa Anita. The fractions are going to be certainly quick early on.
While Big Invasion is an unknown quantity going down the hill, not so with Johnny Padres, the Calbred, who's coming off a good effort in the Green Flash going 5/8 at Del Mar. This distance with his running style is way too short. And still look at the run he puts in the final 3/16. He is last, he is widest, and he is coming fastest, and he's going to actually make this thing close at the wire.
Yeah, this is when I would love to know how much ground he gave up in this race, Dan. And, you know, he runs his race and he's just a little short in the end, but I thought he raced very well. I like that Umberto Rispoli is booked back to ride him, was able to ride him 2 starts back, and they came up a little bit short there. But this is the big thing. 6.5 on the downhill has been very good for him in the past. We saw that wicked turn of foot in these 2 starts now back to back at Del Mar going 5/8. I think this distance should be just perfect for him.
One of my handicapping angles for the downhill is to play horses moving from route to sprint. And I think First Piece, a horse that's done well on the downhill in the past, is going to appreciate cutting back in distance. He had a perfect trip when he won the restricted Wicker 2 starts back. Maybe not so much last time out. He had to be used a bit, was on the outside on the second turn, and then tired pretty badly in the stretch as the favorite. I do like him cutting back. Give him some pace. He'll sit in mid-pack.
And the tough thing with the Del Mar Miles, Conclude made a pretty easy lead in there and set respectable fractions, and the race was over. I was able to take them gate to wire and hold on a charge from Illman, the runner-up in there. I agree with you. I think having the speed on the route and cutting back to the 6.5 figures to work, and you said it already. He does have a proven resume on the downhill. Some really nice performances. We'll see, though, if he can get back to his winning ways on the downhill. He had those 2 starts earlier this year back-to-back, and he was close, just wasn't able to get it done.
Boss Sully, the number 3, needs to prove his mettle at this tougher class level, but he deserves a shot for trainer Brian Coroner. It looked like he was maturing towards the end of his 3-year-old campaign, winning a down-the-hill race for Calbreds. And then in his first start off of a lengthy layoff, he had no issues going 5/8 of a mile against open foes. I like this horse's tactical speed. He can lead, he can rate, he has upside, but he's taken on a tougher field.
It is tougher, and he's going to have to, really step it up as you go down the page in terms of what he's faced. His stakes competition has been against fellow Calbreds. Now he's into way deeper waters in a grade 2 event that there's talent in here, top to bottom. But I agree with you. I think he is a little versatile. I think he can maybe shake things up. He's only making his 2nd start in 2024. If you like him, he'll be a huge price in here. But for me to use him as a top 3 contender, I think he'd have to take a huge step forward, and I'm not sure he can do so in this spot.
Perhaps the most fascinating entrant in this race is the number 4, Two Rivers Over. We haven't seen him since he won the Godolphin Mile on dirt overseas. So this is a long layoff. This is a big surface switch. He hasn't run as well on turf as he has on dirt in the past. Is Doug O'Neill using this race as a prep for something like the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile?
Who knows? I mean, Doug does this all the time, right? You'll see horses dirt, turf. He switches them up, and he has success doing so. This horse really was game in that effort back in March at Dubai, and prior to that was 4th in the San Pasquale and faced some tough rivals in there. Who was 3rd in there? His stablemate Mixto, who we talked about, won the Pacific Classic in one of our other previews today. You know, he's had some really good performances, and this is a horse that just started tackling stakes competition just less than a year ago. But the question would be, those stakes races all on dirt.
Another horse cutting back in distance is the 5, King of Gosford, and this might be just what he's waiting for. He won his first 3 starts in the States, all sprints, 2 going down the hill. They tried him a mile in the Oceanside. I didn't think he had a very good trip that day. They deserved a shot in the La Jolla. He ran very well again. So now he's going to face older horses for the first time, but turning back in distance should work very well for this guy because he has natural speed.
Yeah, looking at the La Jolla last time out, I thought he raced really well. He's going the furthest that he's gone since coming over here and just the furthest in his career at a mile and a 16th. And he closes pretty nicely. It looks like he takes a little bit to get going. And Berto's aboard him in this event and trying to get him rolling. And then he starts to pick it up. But the winner, Stay Hot, certainly was moving the best of all in this field. And he just comes up second best. I agree, though. He's intriguing, cutting back in distance from a figure standpoint. Again, another one that needs to take a step forward. But he's been in stakes competition his last 4.
Another route to sprint runner is the 6, Air Force Red, coming off a high-level allowance win at a mile and a 16th at Del Mar. He just got loose on the lead in that race, and I wonder if that's his preferred running style. And if that's the case, he can show speed in here. I'm just not sure he's as quick as a horse like Fast Buck, who's a natural sprinter. Let's watch his most recent start. He got loose on the lead. They backed down the fractions. He sprinted on home.
Yeah, he won like he should have as the favorite in here. His main threat in the final stages is Paxawallop. You can't miss the gray there on the outside, but just going to be his race when it was all said and done. I think this is a nice confidence-boosting effort. I know we use that cliche phrase all the time, but this is a horse, go down the page to find his last win. We're talking December 2022. And I think looking at that group, sure, you go, it's a non-stake, but there were some nice horses in that field, top to bottom. So I hope that kind of gives him the confidence that he needs. Very curious now to see him sprint for just the second time now in 2024 on the downhill. I thought his other downhill performance, it was okay at best. Probably would have wanted to see a little bit more. But again, it was his first start since June at Belmont. So maybe there were some excuses in that. And in the past, he's been pretty good on the downhill.
The 7, Illman, ships to the West Coast for the very capable Joe Orsino. This guy, another one turning back in distance. I'm not going to hold that last race against him in a rich restricted stakes race over that quirky Kentucky Downs turf course. His sprints are good. He's the kind of horse that does need a little bit of pace because he's more of a closing type sprinter.
Going to be interesting to see him on the downhill, Dan. When you look at his races this year, primarily 5, 5.5. They did try something else last time out at Kentucky Downs with the tricky configuration. It didn't work out for him. He only had a couple horses beaten early in that race, but I just feel like in some of his sprints, 5 and 5.5 is a little too short. Now, with that said, I think 6.5 might work for him. I just don't know about 6.5 on the downhill.
Step Forward is up next. And I think you can make some excuses for his most recent starts. He didn't have to like that Kentucky Downs course last time. They ran him on dirt 2 back. He missed the break 3 starts back. But then you're left with his races on turf and synthetic at Woodbine. And while they're okay, I'm not sure those races are good enough to win this.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think the best of them, in my opinion, would be the Highlander. When Filo D'Ariana was able to win that race, Whitty was the runner-up. This horse was part of the pace scenario, and he backed out of it. Now, looking at the fractions of that race, though, on the EP Taylor, he's not going to see 46-2 on the lead. That's for sure. Going to be a different ball game on the downhill. But I wonder if we're going to see a different tactic from him, if he's going to try to close from off of it. You go back to earlier in May and July of 2023, he seemed comfortable rating. I just think as of late, he sort of wants to go.
The number 9 is Fast Buck, and he's lived up to his name. Just look at his Grade 3 Daytona from 2023. He was a rocket ship out of the gate. He opened up 6 in the blink of an eye. He went explosive fractions, and he just was able to hold on. Now, maybe that race took some of the starch out of him because he hasn't been able to do it in his 3 subsequent outings. But all of those races were 5/8 at Del Mar. And as we mentioned early, he didn't break as well last time out, and that cost him the lead. And I think he's at his best when he gets to the front.
Yeah, and I think this will be different for him. He's another one stretching out. You talked about it. 5/8 at Del Mar is a different ball game. I was a little disappointed last time out. I thought he could sneak in at a bigger price, but he was 5th best in that race. We'll see if the trip that he gets here from Diego Herrera blinkers off. I wonder what the reasoning for that is. He's a horse that he's got the name Fast Buck for a reason. He likes to be quick, so I don't know what that's really going to do for him. I still think he'll be quick, but maybe they'll have the ability for him to just rate off of it. Maybe he'll have a target like Noble Infraction in front of him.
Noble Reflection is up next, and he finished a close 3rd in the Eddie D last year, although that race was run over the 6.5 straightaway. They ran him in an allowance race to finish off his season. He ran quite well on the downhill, showing speed. He simply has 2 excuses for his races this year. They ran him in the wicker off the layoff going a mile. He got caught up in a suicidal pace battle, and it cooked his goose. And then they shipped him to Kentucky Downs. He's run twice over that surface, and he hasn't picked up his feet either time. If he can still run, he's going to show some speed in this race. He's going to be a price. And as you can see, he has a 100 buyer speed figure on his page.
He loves the Santa Anita turf course in general. So he's an intriguing horse. And here we talked about, suicidal speed that we've seen from other horses. He's shown some wicked splits as well in the past in his races. So I think he's a major player. He's not going to get an easy lead here, but he's proven going 6.5, and he's definitely quick. So if you look at him, whether you like him or not, that's up to you. But I think from a pace standpoint in here, you have to consider he's going to be out there, and they're going to be trying to push him early.
And here's Big Invasion, last year's runner-up in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, getting back to his winning ways in the Harvey Pack at Saratoga, going 5.5 furlongs. Big Invasion settled near the back. He swings to the outside. This is a strong late surge to score with a 99 buyer speed figure. There were questions about whether he was in form. Those questions were answered in this race. But as we talked about, now he has further questions to answer. Shipping back to Southern California shouldn't be a problem, but going down the hill might be.
He wins this race, but he should have won this race, right, Dan? When you look at the field that he faced, only one horse has come back to win, and that's a horse that won at Monmouth Park, a New Jersey bred who won his race rightfully like he should have. So it's tough for me to gauge the caliber that he faced. I know he got a flashy figure for it, but he's had 102 in the past, or he's had 98 where I at least have a better kind of feel for the field. And I'm just not sure that was the toughest of fields. They said it earlier. Some reservations about 6.5 on the downhill for him. But if he's at his best, which we have seen him at occasionally, he could be extremely tough against this group.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Grade 2 Eddie D. I'm going for a price with Noble Reflection for the reasons I mentioned. His last 2 races are utter throwouts. He ran well last year. If only Fast Buck wasn't in this race, I'd be lining up to try to get Noble Reflection on a gate-to-wire gambit. With Fast Buck in here, I have to use others, and it could set things up for the likable Johnny Padres.
Yeah, I just have to make sure he doesn't go to the popcorn stand. He loses a lot of ground in his races, Dan, and he's far off of it. But I like Umberto getting back aboard. I think there's things to like about the 6.5 furlong distance for him, the downhill. Very, very hardy horse. Love to own a horse like him. He's very consistent in his career, and I just hope that he gets the pace set up here. But as we look at our picks, I mean, outside of, say, the 1 and the 11, we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, 9 in here as well. That's Fast Buck. We'll see if he can show that usual speed. 1:11.26 for Ashley, 10:11.19 for me. It is a wide open edition of the Eddie D at Santa Anita on Cal Crown Saturday. Good luck. Hey, buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner. And just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.